Welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Hermanson. I know it might seem cheesy or cliche, but if you've got a sleeping giant inside of you, or you just feel like you're made for more, then there's no coincidence you landed here on the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. Listen, as a girl from small town Wisconsin who decided to go all in to her dream life vision, I know how crazy it can feel to chase after wild ideas. Since leaving my 9-to-5 job in academics back in 2015 to becoming a yoga teacher, a life coach, and now a digital nomad, currently living in Merida, Mexico with my husband and Labradoodle, I know that all the cheesy cliches are true. I've watched a lot of my dream life become my real life right in front of my eyes. Oh, and I've learned a whole lot about sales, business, and marketing along the way, and I want to share all of that with you. So here, you can consider me your friend and mentor. As a certified business coach, success trainer, international speaker, author, and copywriter, I've helped hundreds of coaches and entrepreneurs build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. So here on the show, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life your real life. I'm going to let you into the nooks and crannies of these dream lives and dream businesses and offer lots of real talk along the way. Because to be a true leader in whatever you're endeavoring in your life and to create a legacy that you're proud of, you need a tribe lifting you up with you on the journey. And I've made it my mission to be that partner with you. Because after all, we are all in this together. By the way, if you'd like some help improving your business and life, then we just might be able to help. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com to learn more about what we do and how I might be able to personally support you and just continue this conversation in making your dream life your real life. All right, let's get to it. Hello, friends. Today we are hanging out with a super cool dude and a 7-continent explorer, David Axelrod. He is a professional globonaut whose lifelong travel obsession has taken him to over 50 countries. He's regularly featured by travel and hospitality brands such as Afar, Photos, Exclusive Resorts, Matador Network, and others. He's also published, and he had a debut essay collection in 2014. David uses art and travel as an internationally collected fine art photographer and creative director of Two Straws Print Shop. A sought-after travel consultant, speaker, and leisure champion, David helps freedom seekers like us design our ideal trip at davidaxelrod.co. When he's not planning getaways, he's making smoothie bowls and frolicking with his Bernedoodle in Seattle. Dude, we have a Labradoodle. Like, the more we talk, the more we are just like kindred friends here.
We could do a whole episode just about doodles.
I know.
I was just trying to, I was just walking my dog and trying to get him to settle down so I could do a podcast.
All right. Good stuff. Yeah. I hope the doorbell doesn't ring. So we're all set and good for this conversation. And we talked a little bit before we started hitting record about, you're stationed in Seattle, but dude, like 7 continents, 50 countries, like how are you able to do that? I think that's the big question for everyone that's like, how do you do that? Did you play hooky from your job? Are you selling drugs? Like, how does someone have that ability?
Yeah, I think it's taken a lot of determination and kind of insistence on my part that I have been determined to have that kind of freedom in my life. And there have been sacrifices. First, it took some sacrifice of those, that peace of mind of knowing that I have a stable job and, a salary, but I didn't want those things. So I'm not saying that, you can't travel to all 7 continents or a lot or as much as you want if you have a corporate job or anything like that. For me, that was the easiest way to achieve lifestyle that I wanted, was to be self-employed, I'm an entrepreneurial person. So I started, various businesses. I worked as a freelance writer and photographer. I created an e-commerce business, and all of those things kind of amounted to a portfolio career, which a lot of people don't understand, or they don't know really what that means. And when I stopped really trying to explain what that means to people who didn't really get it, it got easier to live that life.
Yeah.
Because it was working for me. It was just, I was, piecing it together. And I knew all along that I wanted to take a trip every quarter, at least. I wanted to travel more than 2 weeks a year. That never made sense to me. So I reverse engineered it. This is how much I want to travel. These are the kinds of experiences I want to have, and I'm not going to compromise on those.
Yes, that reverse engineering piece, I think, really relies on what you're talking about around self-awareness. Like Tony Robbins talks about our 7 human needs, and something that I really bumped up against or was confused about is the difference between certainty and uncertainty. Right. So Tony Robbins, like, those are 2 of the basic human needs, is to like have certainty and then to also have like uncertainty or variety. And when I was in that phase of like, nobody gets me, like I'm doing all these things, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a coach, I open the gym at 5 a.m. Like I was doing all of these things, and I kept kind of feeling that like comfort zone, or that like traditional way of thinking, or like my upbringing being like, Hannah, like you need just a 9 to 5 and a 401k, and your Toyota Corolla should be the thing that fulfills you, And when I was able to say, there are certain things that like I'm going to survive and avoid pain and not be out on the, not avoid pain, but not be out on the street alone. Like I thrive on uncertainty. And if you told me I had to do one job for the next 30 years, I would be so miserable. Other people, they need that and they're going to thrive and they want to be told what to do. But I think we have a lot in common in that, like, I love how you call it a portfolio career. Like we're just like sifting and sorting and trying things on, and knowing that being an entrepreneur is all about the evolution. And there is no like job title. This is what I'm doing for forever. It is that constant uncertainty and just like leaning into the opportunities, which it sounds like you've really done for more than a decade now. And not meant like, that's not common to be doing that for 12 years and like, like not at some point say, all right, I'm done. I quit. Right.
Yeah. And I'd be lying if I said that I never had doubts or fears about it. There were times when I didn't know if it was all going to work out. And I looked into, I looked into getting a job early on. And then I realized that, I was sort of not fully committing to the vision, and I was pretending in a way that I was, which is my biggest fear almost of like, the fear was causing me to actualize like what was really my biggest fear, which is sort of being a hypocrite about this freedom that I was claiming that I had. And I was sort of trapped and controlled by this, the fear of, not working, and me wanting to fully own it. When I fully owned it, that's when it all started working. It was like, I was going 90% of the way. And then when I bashed through that last little bit of fear, that's when everything started opening up. And I know that's sort of a cliche thing, just push through the fear. It wasn't so simple, but I think it was about the consistency of it, because after being self-employed for 8 years, it only would have been harder if I did want to get a job. I'd gone too far. I drifted too far from the shore.
Totally unemployable. What the heck are you going to put on a resume that some HR person is going to be like, yeah, we'll sit this guy in our cubicle and just give him to-do lists. Like, I feel super unemployable at this point as well.
And the jobs that I might have gotten if I had really wanted them and pursued them were, I thought, kind of beneath me at that point. Just the way that the corporate ladder works, I had gotten to a point that they wouldn't even accept me for a position that I didn't even want. So it's just like, what am I doing? Yeah. I need to double down on myself and just believe in myself even more.
But I hear this a lot. It's that like, dangling carrot in front of entrepreneurs. It's like, I'm just going to like try my hardest, but like, I know I always have plan B, whatever that is. If it's, I'll go work for my dad, or I'll get a job, or I'll be a nanny, right? Like, so many entrepreneurs, especially in the first 5 years, still have that plan B. And I would love to hear like some of the specifics, or like what advice you might give yourself when you were still kind of like, well, I have plan B in my back pocket, because I think that decision to kill off all other options is a key to making it and being self-employed. So what advice would you give folks who still have plan B, C, maybe even D?
Do something you like until you're able to do only what you love. It's okay to do something you like to support yourself. And if that's not the thing that you really love, it's still better than the alternative. If you really want to be free, location independent, and be an entrepreneur. So that could be any number of things, but I had a business as a writing coach before I really went fully in on travel. And it was in the early days of me deciding that I wanted to travel. It enabled me to travel because I had the freedom and the time to do it. Now that business is gone and I'm fully in on travel now. But at the beginning, it was really important for me to have some kind of stable income that I could count on. So don't begrudge those types of gigs that enable you to level it up again, because people might look at that and you might feel self-conscious about it, or wonder what, there's all sorts of feelings you can have when you're doing something that you like but don't necessarily love, trying to pass it off as the thing you love it, but that it's a stepping stone.
Yes, that perspective. That perspective that it's a means to an end, right? Like I literally, when I was living in San Francisco 4 years ago, I opened the gym at 5 a.m. Not the dream job, but it helped me pay rent. It got me my workout in, and I would use it as a means to an end. It's not that like, wow, I'm just like the front desk girl at a gym. I didn't make it, or I'm not there yet. But I used that to network, to on my bike ride there, I would do my positive affirmations about like where I'm going. And I think that as like entrepreneurs or people who like really consider themselves self-made or self-employed, we make our jobs our identities. Right. And if you feel like, oh, I'm just the girl opening the gym, or, oh, I'm working for someone else and now that's who I am. Well, you're kind of setting yourself up to just stay stuck there. But when you can shift the perspective and say, okay, I'm using this as a means to an end. This is paying for my coaching certification. This is getting me the experience that I need. You enjoy the journey and get to your destination a lot faster in what I've experienced. And I hear that too.
You have to balance the practical, how to survive, how to make money, support yourself, with the sense of purpose that is really underpinning your dreams. So for me, I always knew, even before I was 100% in on travel and the career I have now, that my purpose was to enable transformative experiences for people. And I was willing to do that any way I could. And I explored all different ways of doing it. My photography business is another way of doing that, trying to inspire people with my, travel themed art, helping people plan trips, planning trips for people, which is what I'm doing now. And everything pointed towards that same goal. So even before everything had come to fruition and was all clicking, I still knew this is what I'm about. And people didn't always see, how it worked. They knew I was about it. I was communicating, what was important to me and how I wanted to help people. They didn't necessarily understand how I was making a living doing it as I was figuring it out myself, but they do now.
Yeah, absolutely. The dots always connect in hindsight. And if you force it or you think it has to be figured out right now, like you're just not there yet. You're just not there yet. Keep making dots and they will connect someday. So David, here we are now. Let's fast forward to, really going all in, getting some clarity for yourself and enough clarity that you're able to communicate it outwardly. Okay. That's part of it, part of this like messy action that we take as business owners. And as we're building, eventually you do get to a point where people are like, oh, I get it. So bring us up to speed in what you've kind of found to be your recipe for freedom. What's going to be different for everyone, but what does it look like for you now?
I wrote a book that helped a lot. It's called Get Away. And Get Away is a blueprint for designing your ideal trip. So essentially, I wanted to give people the tools to have the kinds of trips that they really wanted. And when I wrote a book, all sorts of other opportunities started opening up around that. That's another example of doubling down on my expertise and the thing I really care about. Then I realized, okay, I want to do this in every way I can more. So I started coaching people and working with them to use their points and miles to travel, to talk about gear and to talk about the trips they wanted to take, just as a coach to help people still from afar, almost like hand holding. And then I took it one step further and I became a travel advisor. I joined forces with a really large agency called Ovation, and that to help me tap into a whole network of travel suppliers and, hotel professionals and people all over the industry. Now I have all these new opportunities coming. I'm going to conferences in France and I'm, being invited to places that, allow me to just do everything even more. While I'm going to the conference, I'm taking a little excursion in the afternoon and working on my photography. Everything sort of builds up like that. So
yes. Okay. What I'm hearing is that it is all a journey. Like however many years ago when you maybe were working for someone else or saying, I have a plan B, you were still like, you're doing the same stuff, right? Like you're still seeing like, okay, I'm going to go to this conference, but that's going to take me to the next level. And like this networking opportunity is going to expose me to these people. And then I'm going to take it to the next level. And I want people listening to remember there is no destination. Like you could have stopped like, okay, I wrote a book. I'm going to sit here now and like, just be an author. But I think us like serial entrepreneurs and those of us who are in this for more than 3 years and don't quit, see this as a constant evolution, a constant journey. It's not like you just like write one book and then it's like, I made it. It's all I ever have to do.
No, definitely not. This won't be my last book. It wasn't my first book, but I really think that having this sense of purpose about how you want to help people, it's really easy to lose sight of that. It's really easy to just focus on your own gain. I mean, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but that to me was the thing that helped me not quit. Because I was always thinking, how can I help people? How can I get people to have the experiences they really want? I need to inspire them. Then I realized inspiration wasn't enough. So then I needed to give them this manual almost to do it. And then that wasn't necessarily enough. So I said, I will help you book it. I will connect you to the right people. No excuses now. So for me, it was all the core mission that I have. and then all the different ways that I could serve people and, achieve that, it just branched out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Service, right? Leading with service. How can I help people? What do they need? What's going to get them a better result or a better experience? And that means constant improvement, evolution, right?
Yeah.
So right now you help people plan trips. I want to switch gears and get into the icing on the cake over here, talk about travel, talk about some best practices, and really designing a trip or an experience around what you want to do. I think this is so interesting. And I'm personally just very eager to hear your tips around really designing that trip, whether you work with a travel advisor or with yourself, do you do it on your own? What should travelers be thinking about when they go to book?
Yeah, there's so much to do before that moment comes. And again, to me, it's about being intentional with how you spend your time, money, and energy. Really intentional. Most people, I think, don't do enough work up front. It's like you have to draw a blueprint before you can build a building. You have to outline before you write a great essay. It's the same thing with travel planning. You have to get really clear about what the purpose of the trip is for you, what you want out of it. So I really steer people towards thinking, okay, imagine yourself after you get back from this trip. How do you want to be different? Specifically, try and name it. Try and say what you not necessarily that you want to change about yourself, but just what do you want to
say?
Create?
How many of us
say and create?
Yeah. How many of us are oh, I need a vacation after my vacation, right? You just run yourself crazy and you do all the things. And then you're just exhausted. And you were oh man, I didn't even get that recharge. I do that. Yeah, I'm learning already.
that's part of the book too, by the way, is how to reintegrate. And I don't want to be too abstract here with all this stuff about purpose and intention, although it is really important. But I'm saying use that to then guide your decision in selecting a destination that aligns with those goals. So not just thinking about what month it is and where has the best weather and what aligns with your budget. All very important decisions too. But using that statement of intent almost to guide your destination selection, I feel like when you do that, then the destination sort of picks you. And then you can really start having fun. That's just chapters 1 and 2 of my book. Then the rest of it is really putting it into practice. So I'm talking about designing an itinerary and the whole arc of a trip, the pace of the trip, the order of your nightly stops. Why are you choosing it that way? Why not? How are you divvying up your nights, and what kinds of accommodation do you need to get what you want out of the trip? Is it just a place to rest your head, or is it something more immersive, or do you need a balance of both? So all of those questions dictate what kind of trip it is. Now, really quick, just want to say that the book isn't necessarily for people who are quitting their jobs and hitting the road indefinitely. It's really for anyone who wants to take one cohesive trip. I frame the ideal trip as a 9-day getaway, but it doesn't have to be exactly 9. Mm-hmm. But I think that is a realistic kind of people can make that happen. That's doable for people, 9 days. And of course, if you want to do it longer or whatever, the same principles and lessons that I teach in the book apply. But I would say some things will be different if you want to just go, one-way ticket. Yeah. That's not quite what the book is about, but a lot of the same stuff about airports or, how to behave and be safe still apply.
Totally. And as someone personally who lives in Mexico, we travel, it's just weekend at the beach. My friends are always we have no idea where you are. If you took a plane, train, or automobile, where you are. I'm it's just kind of we're always on the go in some way. But even for me, who lives that way, I have to admit, David, when you're talking about the intentionality and the considerations, even I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of moving parts. So I want to take a little tangent here and ask you, if you like, who do you recommend figures that all out on their own, does it themselves? And who do you recommend works with someone else to have it done for you?
Yeah. I love this question. And this is why I started doing travel advising. In addition to just teaching people how to plan their own trips, I started working as an advisor to curate and design trips collaboratively with clients. And I think the key distinction is sort of the overall investment you're making in the trip. So when it's a higher stakes trip, when all leisure time is precious, but if it is, your one opportunity and it's a luxury trip or a complicated trip, especially, or both, that's when it really behooves you to hire a travel advisor to help make sure that everything is seamless. And I didn't think that was necessary before. I always planned my own trips, and I only started planning them for other people when I realized that people really need help. The DIY approach is really fun, but it's very intensive. It takes a lot of work. So the trips I plan for myself, I think it's sort of a high risk, high reward situation when you're doing it yourself. And, you don't want to invest so much time and money and then make mistakes and squander your investment. So the advantage of hiring a professional to design your trip for you or with you is that you don't have as much risk. There's a way lower chance that everything's going to go awry. And that's really valuable when it's your honeymoon, or when you have 1 week of paid time off, if you do have a job that gives you PTO. So it's definitely a trade-off, but there's a lot more that I could say about travel advisors. There's so many benefits that they can provide with just giving you hookups places. I mean, they can score you extra amenities and perks. So really, when it becomes a luxury experience, that's when I would definitely consider working with an advisor, because they can tap into their network.
Yes, it's their zone of genius. It's their zone of genius. They're going to get you the best of the best. You're going to get like the Super 8 availability on the internet, or like what they had on their website, when you don't know what's like around the corner at this little boutique hotel. I'm really in this like phase of my business and around staying in your zone of genius. Like I've just watched myself so much over the last few years, like put on all these different hats in life, but also specifically in business. So like, I'm the accountant, I'm the marketer, I'm the travel planner, I'm the website designer. And it's just like so draining. And I think for smart entrepreneurs who understand that power of like delegating, this is one of those things that I would like want to delegate for my like sanity in life, not just because if something goes wrong, like my husband and I can't blame each other. We could just blame you, David, if something went wrong, like marital issues averted there in some ways, but also, just, letting go of good to allow for great, I think is something that I'm hearing from you and thinking about. If I were to delegate trip planning, how good could it get? I don't even know, because I'm down here using Google and you've got like a whole nother set of stuff that you could be using. And I want to just like highlight that in travel planning, but also for listeners, like asking yourself that question throughout your life, throughout your business, like where are you doing good, or someone else could be doing great for you?
Zone of genius is I really like that expression, especially because calling yourself a genius is sort of like, if you're not Kanye, it becomes, and even if you are, then it becomes this whole, like this egomaniacal statement to make, to refer to your own genius in any way. But I get that, because I think everyone does have their own genius or their own expertise. So, I'm delegating parts of my business to other people. That allows me to focus on the things I love and do the best. Other people who don't like travel planning or aren't good at it or confident about it might delegate or hire an expert like me. So I really believe in that. To know what your strengths and what your genius is, that's, I think people should know, and they do know, but it's not always as easy to have that inclination deep down versus to really, own it and speak to exactly what it is. So for me, it's, I craft incredible itineraries and I bring them to life for people. So I'm talking about exactly what flights people need, exactly what, the timing has to work perfectly. I'm finding the right trains to connect the dots. I'm finding the right tour companies and the right guides specifically for those clients. So nothing is cookie cutter, because I don't think travel should be like that, especially when you're paying a lot of money for a luxury experience.
Right.
So I'm just tapping into my zone of genius, and I'm going to continue using that phrase because I think that's fitting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is an interesting, full circle piece of where we started this conversation around being freedom seekers, wanting to have our, wanting to find that thing that really gives us purpose, and also the lifestyle that we want, and being able to make some sacrifices and figure that out. I truly believe that there are enough bakers, ambulances, copywriters. Now, we're finding out there are people who can plan your travel for you. In today's day and age, there's literally someone who can do anything for you. And the longer that you stay in their lane and try to be a baker or try to be a firefighter, we just clog the system. This is my woo-woo side and spirituality, if you will. It's when we really just lean into that zone of genius, do what we love, and delegate most of the rest, the whole world works better. You're not the angry person at the airport anymore. It's just all this stuff is super connected. And I love, David, how you're so connected to the purpose piece of things. And I think I'm taking that away again, is every time you say yes to something or take on a project or say, I'll do it, check the purpose that you're lined up with. Because I think your career has really shown that you can sift and sort and say yes, but eventually you want to really zero in on that stuff that you love, lights you up, and helps other people, like you said as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that delegating things, a lot of people might say, well, I need to, that requires me to create extra earning, extra income so I can delegate or hire people to do the things I don't like for me. And then I'm in this cycle of trying to stay afloat with that. But the more you can hone that, what is, the payout for you, it's sort of a balancing act to decide how much is it really worth it for you to do it yourself when you're going to suffer in some way. You might save some money, but how could you use that time better? And those are entrepreneurial decisions, and they're business decisions that people have to make when they're hiring me, that I have to make when I'm doing the work that they're hiring me for. Though that is part of it. So I would say to everyone listening that it really is important to have a business mindset. You have to stay afloat. It might not be always doing your art nonstop. I mean, I opened a e-commerce store and suddenly was doing, 25% photography, 75% back end Shopify. So that became a balancing act too. But if you go 100% on the art or the creative thing or the thing that you just love, that can backfire too. So finding that balance is key.
Totally. Ooh, so for entrepreneurial folks who are all right, it's not my zone of genius to be tracking flights and comparing Expedia to, all the things. Where can people continue this conversation with you and learn more about making great travel experiences with your resources?
At my website, davidaxelrod.co, and that is also my Instagram handle. So find me on either of those places, shoot me a message on my website. And I'll also add that I have a bunch of free resources on the website. Definitely get the book on Amazon, Get Away. But after you get the book, there are a lot of free resources that I created to supplement each chapter. So this is going back to my goal of not giving anyone any slack to cop out or make an excuse. I gave them every opportunity to read the chapter and then put it immediately into action with checklists or worksheets or just printouts. So use those, but just shoot me a message on Instagram and follow my travels. And I hope I can not only inspire people, but actually help make your ideal trips happen.
Yes, I love it. David, Axelrod.co. We will make sure folks can get their hands on all of those goods that you are generous enough to share. I'm so excited. I'm like tripping on my words. Run, don't walk, over to the website. We'll make sure there are links in the show notes. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life. And don't forget to hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show for specific goodies that we talked about today and access to continue the conversation with these guests as well as myself. I cannot wait to see what you create. Until next time.